I actually wasn't originally going to do an Enchantress voice line video. In fact, I already had a few different videos ready to go that would have gone up today, tomorrow, and the next day. Ready to go. Injustice 2 online videos and other stuff, but I saw a lot of you guys asking about where is the Enchantress voice line video. Normally, I release a voice line video where I go over my favorite interactions with the character and I talk about the character a little bit, and I wasn't sure I wanted to keep doing them, but I knew I wanted to do one for TMNT because I'm sure their voice lines are going to be superb, and a lot of you guys requested one for Enchantress, so I figured, why not? Let's do it. Enchantress has a very horror theme going across all of her voice lines, and that's just because of how the character's portrayed, and I think they did a really good job overall, but I'll talk about that a little bit more at the end of this video. Before I get into the voice lines though, I want to go ahead and ask you, if you're new around here, to go ahead and subscribe. I'm on my way to 15,000 subscribers. That's a big milestone for me. I want to hit that as quickly as possible. That would be a big deal to me, and if you're not new around here, leaving a like on the video is always appreciated. So let's get straight into the voice lines. From this first one that you can get when you verse Green Arrow.
Think of your worst memory.
Spent a year stranded on a desert island.
I can do better than that.
I think the reason I like this voice line so much is because Enchantress almost takes that as a challenge. When Green Arrow says, you know, I had to spend this year on an island, Enchantress goes, well, I mean, I have to put you through so much torment, I have to torture you in this match, so much so that you wish you were back at that island. And I think that really speaks to the Enchantress character. So thumbs up for this one. Let's move on to the Sub-Zero voice line interaction. Well, one of them.
If you can kill me, please do it.
You are choosing to suffer.
Trust me, Sub-Zero. June has no choice.
Well, in the last voice line, we got to see a little bit of Enchantress's character wanting to put Green Arrow through as much torment as possible. This time around, we got to see a lot of June Moone's character, how scared she is of Enchantress, asking Sub-Zero to kill her. She does this with a couple different characters, I think, but Sub-Zero is the one that I like the most, so that's the one I decided to put on this list. Next up is an interaction with Hellboy, and the fact that I even said that, I'm sure most of you know the interaction I'm talking about if you've heard it before.
Can't tell, but I'm blushing right now.
Don't be so modest, Anung and Rama.
How do you know my goddamn name?
So awesome of Enchantress to bring up Hellboy's real name. I love Hellboy's reaction as well. He's just like, what? No one's supposed to know that. I would love to see these two actually interact in a more long-form situation, but of course there's only so much they can do with two different lines. But regardless, I think they did a good job. Awesome voice line, and that's the reason it's on this list. Next up is one with Jay Garrick, and just for you guys, because I wanted to put this one in the video, I went ahead and I purchased Jay Garrick. I already owned Jay Garrick before, but if you remember all the way back at the start of Injustice 2, my stats all got reset because of a weird glitch that happened with one of the updates, and that got rid of my version of Jay Garrick. So I spent real money to buy Jay Garrick in order to make this video, because I heard this voice line interaction on a friend of mine's video, and I was like, oh, well, this was just so good I had to go in my video.
Please, Mr. Garrick, don't let me die.
Not while I have breath in these lungs.
Aren't you sentimental, old man?
Man, that's such a cool moment because it tells you so much about June's character, how innocent she is, being obviously super respectful to Jay Garrick, even in that moment of duress, calling him Mr. Garrick. I know that sounds like a small thing, but again, it speaks to that character. And of course, Jay Garrick obviously doing his thing, being a hero, being a classical hero, saying that of course there was no way that he was going to let June die. Definitely a cool interaction. Moving on to this interaction with Bizarro.
I don't need to be saved, Bizarro.
Me am saving city from you.
You're not as stupid as people say.
Put this one in context of the last one we just saw. Look at how desperate she has been to be saved from Enchantress. But the second she's across from Bizarro, she's like, I don't really need to be saved anymore. I don't know what you're gonna do. I might end up dead. You might end up being possessed by Enchantress. That would be far worse than me being possessed by Enchantress. So how about you just stay on that side and you just don't even try to save me, because I can't imagine what would possibly happen if you tried to save. And the fact that if you look at any other voice line that she has with any other character, she is so desperate to be saved. But the second she comes across Bizarro, she's like, no, I'm good. Enchantress, me and her are good friends, so no need to save me. This next one is with Power Girl.
Was that a serious proposal?
Your Kryptonian body will be my new vessel.
I'm nobody's trophy.
Can you imagine Enchantress in a Kryptonian body? That would be crazy. Not a bad interaction at all. And it's a different way to take that particular intro dialogue that Supergirl has where she says, oh sorry, Power Girl has, when she says, was that a serious proposal? Normally that's kind of used in a context of the men of the roster, and then there's jokes that they take off of that, but Enchantress took it very seriously, and she was obviously not necessarily talking about an actual proposal, but a proposal of, hey, I would like to possess you. I like them using older voice lines like that and kind of putting it in a different context and still making it work, shoving it into a new environment and having it still be completely coherent. I think NetherRealm deserves props for that. This next interaction is with Harley Quinn.
I'd rather forget the squad.
Oh, but I miss our little chats.
Well, I don't miss a thing, Harley.
Obviously, the main reason this one made it onto the list is because it, in fact, does mention the Suicide Squad, which was my first experience with the Enchantress character, and I wasn't in love with her in that movie. I thought she was a fine character, but nothing to write home about. But regardless, I am glad that they mentioned the Suicide Squad. And of course, I mean, it goes without saying that she's been on the Suicide Squad plenty of times with Harley Quinn in the comic books. So, awesome reference, definitely deserves to be on this list. This next interaction is with Jason Todd.
Finally, some big game.
I'm the monster that lurks under your bed.
Maybe consider a new line of work.
The main thing I like about this is just the part where she says, I'm the monster lurking under your bed. I think that's a really cool line because, again, it speaks to that horror theme that they're really pushing with Enchantress that I personally like quite a lot because there's no one on the roster like that for us currently. No character is really a horror character unless you really stretch the definition of that. People occasionally talk about superhero films and the fact that it's just going to be a fad and that superhero films will eventually die off, but I don't think that's true because superhero films aren't really a genre in the same way that Westerners were a genre. You can do superhero films in so many different ways. Imagine an actual horror film with Enchantress as the main villain. Obviously, there's some inherent flaws with something like that, but the point I'm trying to get across is that there's so many different directions you can take characters that aren't necessarily formulaic in the same way that I think a lot of people think that superhero films are. Just because superhero films so far have mostly been, Marvel-style films, whatever that means, doesn't mean that it will always be that way. I know that was a random side tangent, but I thought it was worth mentioning here because I really like the horror theme. Next up is an interaction with Superman.
I can't help it. She has to be let out.
But you'll hurt innocent people.
Since when is that a problem for you?
I just love this one. I just love it when any character takes the time to really throw it in Superman's face and remind him how much of an awful person he is in this universe. I feel like people don't really give it enough credit. Superman is the worst character. I hate him in this particular universe. I really do. Not necessarily I hate the character. I like seeing the character, but he's just not a good person. That's actually the one thing I wish I could change about the Injustice 2 story. They made Superman look almost redeemable all the way up until the end, and I wish they didn't do that. I wish they always treated him like a criminal, because he is a criminal in this world. They should have treated him and all the other Justice League members that follow him just as guilty as they would treat a character like Bane. In fact, all things considered, Superman and all the other Justice League members did far worse things than Bane did. And moving on to my final voice line, my absolute favorite intro dialogue from Enchantress, and it is with Enchantress. It is a mirror match.
I need the JL Dark's help.
Zatanna and friends are in a shallow grave. They weren't yours to bury.
What a lovely shout out. Obviously, there's a ton of people out there who would have loved to have seen Zatanna return in this game. Unfortunately, she did not, but at least we got a Justice League Dark shout out here. I actually haven't seen this recent Justice League Dark animated film. I want to go watch that. I will eventually watch that because I love so many of the Justice League Dark characters. But yeah, she implied that she killed them all. Minus Swamp Thing, right? Because he's still alive. For people who aren't aware, I suppose I'll just quickly run through it. Some of the other Justice League Dark members are people like Deadman, Constantine, I believe Etrigan is a part of that roster as well. Obviously Zatanna, as mentioned, and there's a couple others I'm not super familiar with. You get the idea. Magical based character. I would have loved to have seen more of them in Injustice 2, but there's always the next game, right? There you go, that was my list of Enchantress intro dialogue. Thank you guys so much for supporting this series. I super appreciate it because, again, this is a series I wasn't sure you guys would enjoy as much, but the second I stopped doing it, you guys requested it so much, so Thank you guys so much for that. I want to go ahead and mention that I'm just super proud of NetherRealm for this character. They took a character that I was completely uninterested in. Out of every character on the entire DLC roster, I think she was the character I was least excited about, but she's the character that I've picked up as a main. I think that says a lot about how NetherRealm designs characters. They've taken a character that I knew nothing about and that I couldn't care less about, and now I really want to see her show up in everything. I want her on the CW shows. I want her in the next DC film. I want her everywhere. She's become a character that I really like. I'm not sure if it's just because of the horror theme and it's such a different type of character for this world, at least from what I'm used to, or if it's the Moone character that we didn't really see a ton of in Suicide Squad. We saw a lot of the Enchantress character in Suicide Squad, but not a lot of the Moone character. I don't know what exactly it was. I can't really pinpoint it, and I really hate saying things like that, but it's true. I would just love to see this character more. And I think that speaks volumes about how good of a job NetherRealm did with this character. If you agree, let me know in the comments. And if you disagree, let me know why in the comments. Thank you guys so much for watching this video yet again. Thank you for supporting this series. My name has been Bilbzy, and I will see you in tomorrow's video.
Holy mackerel.